All right. Let's talk about this Sunbelt Championships, which on paper does not look that exciting, Kev. One thing that I loved that I saw that was a quote from one of the beat writers was the Dukes are going to be the biggest fans of Duke. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But no, I mean, the whole story circulating around this game is obviously the fact that JMU gets in essentially with a win, obviously, and Duke winning the ACC championship. We're going to talk about that game in a little bit. Both, or no, I'm sorry, Bob Chesney, we already talked about. He's heading to UCLA. He's a lame duck head coach. If JMU does win and get into the playoffs, they need to lock down the penalties. I looked up their stats. They're like 120th, like in the country for how bad they are with penalty times. That's not going to fly if you want to have any hope of getting past that first round. And hold on, I had to pull it up for myself. Wait, did I pull it up, the CFP? I did, but let me go
Well,
back
I'll just
and
chime in
check.
on that. They also need
Yeah.
to get better in the turnover department. They actually have a negative turnover margin on the season. They force one takeaway a game, but they give it away 1.1 times per game. So,
Right.
yeah, penalties and turnovers are a great way for a good team like JMU to end up getting stomped by like an Ole Miss or an Oklahoma.
Yep.
I think even though lame duck, I don't know if I'd call it lame duck. I do think JMU players and their coaching staff, they have a lot to push for. This
They
coach,
do.
Bob Chesney, he's 48 years old. He looks 39. He looks amazing.
Oh yeah.
I think he's not like a grizzled vet like Lane Kiffin who can be callous to a whole university and team. Like I think he's going to give it his all in this game,
Right.
and then if they do sneak in the college football playoffs, I don't think he's going to have one foot out the door at all. The one thing I'll note about Troy, this was the team that almost upset Clemson in that Hurricane game earlier this season, if you'll remember.
I do. Yeah. That would have
Yeah,
been hilarious. My good Lord. Um, the one other thing I wanted to like kind of my food for thought here, Kev. Right now, the Sun Belt is one of those conferences that still sticks with the winner of the East versus winner of the West kind of deal. Looking at the spread of this championship game, they need to reevaluate it. I'm sorry. This game should be JMU versus Old Dominion based on the season that Old Dominion had, because that would have made for a better game. Now, that being said, last week, Troy did upset Southern Miss. They were a touchdown underdog and won by 10 and outgained the Golden Eagles by 124 yards. And their QB, Goose Crowder, elite name, came back from an injury in mid-November, struggled against ODU, again, arguably the second best, not arguably, on paper, the second best team in the Sun Belt, but ended strong, going 7 touchdowns and 646 passing yards in the final 2 games of the season. Okay, I'm gonna get to the picks here because I think we're both on the same boat potentially. Oh, no, we're not.
no, and I would just like to add one thing that Old Dominion and Troy are both 6-2 in the conference, so I don't know how tiebreakers would work in a merged format, but there's a chance that if there were no
ODU has a
divisions in
much
this.
more impressive resume, though, I think.
Yeah.
I'll be able to give
I
it
think I
quickly.
guess it would come down to head to head. So I guess old
Right.
ODU did beat Troy, but it's not that far off. I would like to talk about my pick. Um, just so I think the over is what we aligned on, and that makes a lot of sense. My
It does.
over and then picking Troy is a little bit of a handicap for myself because so assuming JMU covers, right? Troy would have to
Right.
get under 14 points for that over not to hit. So
Right.
I think they're going to be able to put some points up. Troy's averaging over 20 points a game in their last 5. 2 of those last 5 games were against ODU and Arkansas State, where they scored 0 points and 10 points. So even with those 2 games in the last 5, they're averaging over 20 a game. JMU's last 5 opponents are averaging about 15 per game.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's why I had the over. I think
Okay.
Troy's a team that was able to compete with Clemson when Clemson hadn't quite fallen from grace.
That
And I think even though I just said JMU won't have like lingering questions and a foot out the door syndrome, they might to an extent where they're not going to win by more than 21 points is kind of where my head is. But you picked JMU to cover. What are you thinking there?
Yeah, and look, here's one thing I'm going to say. JMU has won all of their conference game by an average of more than 27 points per game. That being said, my head just comes down to this is JMU needs to they need to hope for Duke, but they also need to do like their last statement on the season to kind of show how much they belong in the CFP in order to help their resume out. So in that sense, I think this game means more for the Dukes. I think just personally knowing all the people who are JMU fans, I think that they're more of a football school program than Troy is. So yeah, I like JMU to cover handedly. I think they might end up blowing them out, and then they're going to be watching that. They're going to sit back, enjoy it for maybe about an hour before the next day they're sitting on their couches, chittering their teeth like this,
Well, yeah,
watching the
they got a full
ACC
28 hour or 24 hours because UVA
Right.
Duke play the next night. Yeah, and the only other thing
Exactly.
I'll note on this game, it is a home game for JMU, so
That's
it's a
true.
home game
Yeah.
here, and they have
True.
played better at home
Yeah.
throughout the
All right,
season.
folks, we're going to go on the next video.
Yes.
But if you're watching just the snipped out solo video, remember to like and subscribe. We are ending the football season here, obviously, with bowl games and the playoffs being the only thing between us and complete oblivion. But we got college basketball coming up. So me and Kev are going to be talking about that a lot as the season heats up. We'd love to get you guys on board to talk about it more. Remember to like and subscribe and to follow us on Twitter. Thank you so much.